Hi guys, Nick here from Gimme, and today we're going to be doing a new exciting test for you guys. I've got 4 fantastic models here from 4 of the big manufacturers in golf. This is the game improvement category, so we're going to be going through 4 different models here for you. We're going to hit some shots, talk about the data, which iron might suit which particular category of golfer and why. Technically from the outside they all look very, very similar here, but there are some differences. I'm gonna hit some shots, talk it through with you guys, stay tuned. Okay guys, so 4 different heads here. We've got TaylorMade, we've got Ping, I've got the Titleist, and I've got the Callaway. 4 different models, but they're all aimed at the game improvement category golfer, so that's mid to high handicap golfer. Now, that being said, this sort of an iron here, this can be used by anybody and everybody, because one thing's for sure, this particular type of iron is going to make it easier for everybody. They're aimed at maximum forgiveness across the face, helping you hit the ball higher, longer. So technically, who does this suit? Well, as mentioned there, because of the style of the head, and typically all these heads here, they're all of that, moving towards that sort of hollow head design, what does that allow them to do? Well, in principle, allows them to go a little bit thinner with the face, which is going to up ball speed. Also allows them to use that the weight that they're saving from the different materials that they're putting into these heads, they can position weight a little bit lower back and further down. That's going to help with launch, especially in the hard to hit long irons. And then just because of the footprint of the head in terms of the length of the head from heel to toe, it's also going to make them a lot easier, a lot more forgiving across the entire face as well. So there's multiple different things that these irons really going to help you with as you move through the bag from long iron all the way down to the shorter end of the bag. So I'm going to hit some shots with each. I'm going to talk you through visually, feel, down by the ball, how they look, what I'm seeing personally in myself when I put them down by the ball, who that's going to appeal to most, I feel. And then we're going to go through the data a little bit at the end and see if there's a particular winner amongst these 4 models here. They're in hot competition. They're all aimed at the same golfer, right? So, and 4 big manufacturers here as well. Technically the top of the tree, you would say. They've all released previous models that have always been very, very successful. Great pedigree, great history in this part of the market. So is there one that's particularly better than the other in 2025? I'm gonna hit some shots, go through the numbers with you guys right now. Okay, so guys, first model, it's gonna be the Callaway Elite. And I have to say, there's been some buzz around this product this year, and I can really see why. It's a very attractive looking iron. It's definitely got some bag appeal. If you see that sat in the bag there, it doesn't scream game improvements. And I think that's one of the things that makes it so attractive, right? Is that in the past, in this particular category, the irons have I wouldn't say they've looked gimmicky, but you know, they haven't looked as classy as some of the other irons that have been aimed at the better player. And I think ultimately in this part of the game here, game improvement category, they still want some bag appeal. They still want the iron to look, ooze sexiness, to look good when they pull it out, you know, and also have all that performance as well. And I think Callaway, I have to say, with this particular head, have definitely nailed that. And I know they were very excited about this particular product. So what am I seeing here? Well, it's definitely got more of that sort of satin finish or gloss finish to it, you would say. A bit of a mixture of both. The back looks very attractive as there, and as you look down on it, more of a mid-top line, I would say, to it. It doesn't scream game improvement in the playing position. Moderate amounts of offset. There's certainly irons that I'll hit later on in this particular test that have more offset to them. I would say of the irons that I'm comparing it against today, probably the Titleist and the Callaway look the most similar. I'd then say the TaylorMade and the Ping sit with a little bit more offset when you put them down by the golf ball. So if offset is something that you look for in your irons, especially as you get into the longer irons, certainly the TaylorMade and the Ping might be more appealing, but back onto the Callaway. So in that playing position there, certainly in terms of heel to toe, it's not oversized in terms of it's not too long. I'd say it's got a moderate sort of sole to it as well, quite interesting. I know they spoke a lot about the shape of the sole on this particular model now, a chamfered leading edge, and that's going to stop it from digging too much. It doesn't look like it's carrying too much bounce or camber on there as well. And that's one of the things that in the past I think people would be a little bit critical of game improvement irons, and why they might like the playability of the iron, but they're not putting it in play because they felt like maybe in drier, firmer conditions, the too much bounce has actually hindered them from being able to get too much strike onto the golf ball. So that's where something like the Elite iron might be quite attractive to that particular golfer this year. So certainly looks, I would say, very appealing. down in terms of that playing position, I can see this is going to look very attractive down by the golf, more of a sort of a mid-top line to it. It's got more of the satin finish here, and then more that mirrored sort of finish on the outside of the head, which is very appealing to look down onto. In terms of the tech, they've followed what they've done in the irons here. So they've gone that AI 10X face. So they're talking about forgiveness across the face here, heel and toe strikes, retaining a little bit more energy, bringing that what we call smash factor, trying to give you more smash factor across the face, more transfer of energy from the club to the ball, a little less deflection as well. And then they've also spoken about, the different materials involved in this particular head here. So with this category of golfer, distance is definitely something that golfer is after. So of course, ball speeds are important here. And again, it's going to be interesting in the test to see if the Callaway, the TaylorMade, the Ping, the Titleist, if any of them give any more distance than any of the other. They're all exactly the same loft, 29 degrees. I'm pretty much hitting their stock option shafts in each of them. So this is the Vector. This is an 80-gram shaft, so it's a little bit light for me, but I should be able to give you a bit of an impression of who this is going to suit best. Right, guys, so let's hit some shots. As I mentioned earlier on, down by the golf ball, looks absolutely fantastic. I have to say, it doesn't scream game improvement iron. Something I could game, I'd say at the moment, visually, absolutely. Okay, so guys, hit some shots there, and I have to say, really impressed with that particular model that Callaway brought to market there. I'm thinking about previous Callaway models that I've hit, some of the big Berthas of the past, very big, lots of offset to them, obviously hugely forgiving, but certainly not an iron that I would have previously looked at playing, just too cumbersome for me. And again, when we're talking about bag appeal, really screams sort of game improvements and just didn't look that great in the bag. Great performing irons, but just weren't for me personally. That's amazing. I really feel like you could put something like that in play. I could see where, certainly if you're somebody where you struggle with your iron play, you want something that looks good, sounds good, feels good, but also you want that bit of forgiveness. You could definitely put that in as well. There are some different models. They have a more sort of a high lofted model in the Elite as well to help you if you do tend to launch the ball a little bit low. As I mentioned, 29 degrees on that particular 7 iron there. And that probably shows in the numbers for me. But if you need a little bit more height, if you're somebody who hits it a bit shorter, needs more launch, needs more spin, they've got a HL model there. They've also got an X model there as well, which should help with a little bit more of that draw bias as well. So definitely a couple of models worth trying if you're going to go down and get fitted for these clubs particularly. But yeah, I was really impressed with that. Felt solid off the face. I hit a couple of different shots with it, heel and toe. Didn't feel a huge amount of vibration into the hands. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'll leave that up to you. But it just meant that the club felt very stable to me on those particular shots right there. Distance-wise, again, with the shaft being relatively soft and quite responsive, it produced a nice high launch, plenty of spin on there as well, even though the loft is a bit stronger than what I would typically play myself. So yeah, massively impressed with that one there. Felt great. Can see why that's going to have a big season for Callaway Golf. And we've got some numbers there to now compare against with the other models as well. Okay, so on to the next model, and this one is from Titleist. This is called the T350, and it's more of a hollow body construction here, quite similar to what we've just tested there in the Callaway Elite, and also quite similar to what we'll see in the next couple of clubs I hit in terms of the TaylorMade, the Q10 as well. So why are manufacturers moving towards this particular type of head? Well, I think it allows them to get a little bit more specific of where they're moving the weight, and I know that there's been some strategic tungsten positioned in this particular head here in the heel and toe. What the tungsten's going to allow the designers to do is make the head more stable. Also, depending on where they place it, it will also give a little bit more weight deeper in the head as well, which will also help give a bit more launch as well. So by saving a little bit of weight, by making the head or effectively hollow, they're able to go a little bit thinner with the face, position the particular weight in positions here. So they've gone heel and toe more for Titleist here, and they're able to fine tune it with different materials in the head. So everybody uses slightly different materials. As a TaylorMade use more of a sort of like a resin that they put into the head, you would say. They called it speed foam in the past, and that's allowed them to fine tune that hollow head, because one of the things you could expect when you have a hollow head design, and previous hollow head designs, if we went back, because this isn't new technology per se, this has been in the market for quite some time. If you went back, some of the hollow head hollow heads of the past sounded quite tinny because, again, it's almost like, you know, you can imagine getting an empty metal bin and hitting the side of it with a stick. Quite a high acoustic comes from it, you know, and that's almost kind of what you would get from a previous hollow head going back sort of 10 years ago. So they had to go back to the drawing boards in terms of the acoustics, because that is how we interpret feel. And ultimately, they had to try and give us a different acoustic with these irons. So they now use multi-materials in here. In terms of the playing position, I'd say a fraction more offset than the Callaway Elite that I just hit. And the top line looks slightly thicker, a bit chunkier. Blade size overall just looks a little bit bigger. It looks very forgiving by all means, but it definitely looks a little bit bigger. So I'm going to hit some shots now. Going to see if that reflects at all. You know, the Callaway was stable. I hit a couple of shots heel and toe just to try and test the Elite out, and it's pretty good distance-wise, where I'd sort of expect it. Shaft here, one of their stock options, AMT red in an R300. So again, another shaft design to give a little bit more launch, a little bit more spin to the lower swing speed, or the player that struggles to sort of launch irons. It's designed and looking at that sort of player, right? So I'm gonna hit some shots. Let's see how it turns out. Okay, so down by the golf ball, definitely a little bit rounder, a little bit more offset, thicker top edge. They've gone quite similar to the Callaway. They've gone satin, that sort of more mirrored look around the rest of the head. Looks absolutely fantastic. It's got plenty of bag appeal again, but bag appeal isn't necessarily the only thing that the golfer in this category is looking at. So let's see if this is any easier to hit or any hotter to hit than the Callaway was. Yeah. Okay, so hit some shots there with the Titleist T350. Great feeling iron, very solid. Certainly down by the golf ball, there's a bit more real estate there. You can see it was a little bit bigger than the Elite head for me. The top line, a little bit more offset, slightly longer blade length as well. A bit more rounded on that toe as well, so depending on visually what you prefer. If you prefer that sort of more rounded toe area, then certainly the Titleist will probably appeal to you more. In terms of the numbers, definitely saw a higher flight there. So the initial launch was definitely a little bit higher from the Titleist, and the peak height was a bit higher as well. I went from around 101 feet to around 108 feet in my peak height there from the shots that I hit. Again, I hit a couple out the heel and the toe just to test its stability, and I would say very similar to where we were with the Callaway as well. Distance overall, despite the higher flight, wasn't particularly any different to where I was with the Callaway Elite. So I wouldn't say the Titleist was quicker, but it definitely saw more launch, more spin. So if you're somebody who tends to flight your iron quite low, you're looking for a bit longer, a bit more certainly peak height in your longer irons, then that's where the Titleist actually might be a better fit for you. All right, guys, on to number 3, and this is the TaylorMade. This is the QI10. So obviously now in 2025, in terms of the woods, we're in the QI35, but the QI10 runs into 2025 as their game improvement iron category. So in terms of this head, a lot of familiarities with other previous models. They've got the speed pocket in here. They've got the fluted hosel where they've taken a little bit of weight out of the hosel area here, that we're able to use that weight in other parts of the head. Again, like the previous two models, it's more of a hollow head design. And that's pretty much, I think, where the game improvement category iron is going. I think the days of seeing big cavity backed irons, perimeter weighted irons, you don't see as much of that in this part of the market now. I know there's some other models in the market there, the Strixons as well, and the Cobras, and they followed suit in terms of more this hollow head design. And I think it's just because the manufacturers can get a little bit more specific of where they want to position that weight. For me, TaylorMade in this particular category, they've always been very quick irons, very hot off the face. Ball speed's always been really good. This particular iron does have 1 degree more loft than the other heads that I'm testing today. So it'll be interesting to see if that does result in a bit more ball speed, a little bit more distance. Very similar in terms of its construction, you know, so they've gone slightly wider in terms of the actual sole shape for me. I would say it's deeper than certainly where the Callaway Elite was. And down by the golf ball, a little bit more offset, definitely a slightly thicker top edge than the Callaway. Quite similar, I would say, to where we are with the Titleist. So I'm gonna hit some shots for you now. Let's see what the data says. Okay, guys, so I think I mentioned, you know, down by the golf ball, what I'm seeing here is definitely a slightly longer blade length than what I saw in the Callaway Elite. And that pretty much ties in, I think, with what I've said so far. The Elite, certainly in this particular category, seems to be slightly smaller, more compact profile, that might appeal to certain players in the game improvement category. Maybe if you're on the end of improving and your game's getting better and you want to see something slightly more compact, or just visually to the eye, you want to see something more compact. If you want to see something which is a little bit bigger and that's going to inspire some confidence, and I'd say certainly the TaylorMade and the Titleist at the moment are the two heads to me that give me that impression and give me that feel. So this one also has a white, the bottom groove here has been got a paint infill, and that's quite nice from an alignment perspective as well. All right, so that was really interesting. So with that particular model there that I just hit, there was definitely a little bit of a jump in the ball speed from the TaylorMade. The launch and the spin stayed very similar to where it was with the previous two irons that I tested, the Titleist and the Callaway Elite. But with the TaylorMade there, the Q10, definitely noticed a big jump in ball speed, anywhere around 3 miles an hour, I say on average, from the other two heads that I've tested so far. And that resulted definitely in more carry yardage, about a club longer I was hitting that there. So again, it is a degree stronger. This is 28, the other two irons were at 29, but I could definitely feel it was very quick off the face there. And what was interesting is it didn't drop spin comparatively. Now, of course, shaft can contribute towards that as well. Of course, I'm not a robot, so there's also the fact that I might have just swung a couple of the TaylorMades better and hit them as well, but it definitely felt a little bit quicker off the face. I could feel that definitely through the hands, and definitely the numbers would suggest that as well. So at the moment, if you're looking for the longest iron in the test of the 4 heads, I haven't tested the Ping yet, but certainly the TaylorMade's going to be pretty hard to beat there. Overall forgiveness, pretty good as well. Dispersion was very similar to the previous two models, pretty tight for me. Heel and toe strikes felt pretty stable and didn't lose a huge amount of energy, which is exactly what I'd expect from this an iron in this category. But certainly if you're looking for something that's quick, TaylorMade right now. All right, so on to the final iron of the test, and this is going to be the Ping G440. Now Ping have a rich heritage in this particular market here. In essence, they brought the original perimeter weighted design iron to the market that became hugely popular in the 1980s, driving Mark Halkavecchia, for example, to an Open Championship win. And then since then, they've always been definitely an iron to consider if you're looking at a game improvement iron category. But what makes them so good? Well, really, they've just nailed the shape, in terms of it's always looked the most forgiving of all the different manufacturers that they've put forwards, I think. For me, footprints, relatively big, certainly heel to toe. It's a little bit longer than the other models that I'm testing today. And I believe from what Ping is saying, they're also looking for the iron to become around an 1/8 bigger in the longer irons than previous Ping models as you go up towards 4 iron, to make them even friendlier again. So what they're trying to do is they're making the head a little bit shallower in terms of from that perspective, but they're going to make the blade length a little bit longer and more stable. Now again, like the other iron heads, they're using multi-materials here, bit of weight, certainly lowering the head to help with launch and spin, and then also a little bit of weight into that toe area here. They actually have a screw here which they can use to fine tune the weight of the head at Ping HQ if a particular swing weight is requested, but it also brings a bit of stability into that part of the head as well. They've also gone a little bit thinner with the face this year to try and up ball speeds. As mentioned earlier on, very competitive part of the market this, and these guys are always looking for the edge over one another, and I think distance and ball speed is certainly something that sells in this particular part of the market. So Ping didn't want to be left behind. Callaway, TaylorMade, they've always had extremely fast heads, so they wanted to get something that brings it up to sort of par, let's say, with those particular irons in the market. Loft on this one is 29 again, so very similar to where I was with the Callaway and the Titleist, so 1 degree weaker than the TaylorMade. But what I would say with Ping is that you can order these heads, or you can find them in the market with what they call a retro loft, which is where the loft is weakened off, and also a power loft where the loft is made stronger, which ultimately is going to lower flight, give you more ball speed and therefore more distance. So again, if you're going to get fitted, or if you're looking for these heads in the second-hand market, definitely be aware of what loft that they've got on them, because they might have been fitted for somebody previously, or you might just be hitting the standard loft head, and that can be adjusted to give you your desired flight characteristics. I've got one of Ping's stock options in here, the Ping 8WT 3.0. Familiar with this shaft. pretty similar to what we've got with the other shafts there as well, in terms of really the shaft is there to complement the head, give a bit more launch, a bit more spin. Interested to hit this particular head. I've used previous models of Ping, not the G series, but the I series in the past, so familiar with this as a brand. Looking forward to seeing what the Ping brings to the table. Okay, so looking at the head down by the golf ball, very appealing. Certainly you can see it's a little bit shallower, but again, they've sort of joined the other manufacturers in creating that sort of more satin look now. It doesn't actually have as much of a sort of a mirror look until you look at the back of the iron actually, which is quite interesting, but certainly this part of the head here, very similar to what we saw with the Titleist, with the TaylorMade, and also with the Callaway, in terms of they've gone for more of that sort of matte finish there. And when you put that down by the ball, it frames the ball really nicely. I'd say moderate amount of offset as well, so certainly more than what we saw on the Callaway model, pretty similar to the Titleist and the TaylorMade, so that gives me the impression that I can launch this thing, and also offset can make the club a little bit easier to draw or not slice, anti-slice, let's call it. So let's hit a few shots with it, see how it feels. So I've just finished hitting the Ping there, and really interesting findings. Absolutely flew off the face. Achieved some of my best ball speeds there, or similar to where I was with the TaylorMade Q10. So certainly from a ball speed perspective, it doesn't lack anything, but it also created some of the highest peak heights of the day as well. Anywhere up to sort of 19 feet higher than where I was with the Callaway Elite, which is really interesting. Again, this is all strike dependent, right? And also a little bit higher than where I was with the TaylorMade, the Q10. So equaling the ball speed of the stronger iron, but giving me more peak height. So really, in this particular part of the category here, if I'm looking for someone that launches it high, spins it a little bit more, but still retains a bit of ball speed, then it ticks all the boxes really. They know exactly what they do in this category here, and they've produced another absolutely fantastic iron. Really impressed with that. Felt great acoustically, sounded nice. Down by the ball, confidence inspiring in terms of long blade length. Bit of offset there certainly, and I know that the Ping irons tend to become a little bit more offset as you go into the longer irons, but really interesting iron, that one there. I mean, it almost begs the question why I wouldn't put something like a 4-iron in that in my own bag, because it's just so easy to hit. Okay guys, so just having a little roundup of what we just saw there. So really interesting, 4 fantastic irons, but they are subtly different. I'd certainly say this year that the Callaway head, being a little bit more compact, is definitely going to appeal to a particular type of golfer, maybe the golfer that's going down from game improvements into more the players distance iron category. In terms of in the bag and down by the ball, it looks fantastic. It didn't produce quite the same ball speed and sort of launch and spin that I got out of the other game improvement irons, so I would say it's not quite as easy to hit in that regards, but it might be better for the golfer who actually wants to start putting someone down by the ball, who feels that they can manipulate it, shape it, hit it higher, hit it lower, fade it, draw it. It might be better for that type of a golfer, to be completely honest. Onto the Titleist. Again, great feel, great feedback, lots of bag appeal in terms of the way that visually that it looks. Again, it didn't offer the best ball speeds in the test. It did give me a nice high ball flight in terms of the initial launch and spin was certainly up compared to the Callaway, for example. So if you're somebody where you're looking for something that's easy to launch, easy to hit, the Titleist definitely has to be on that list of clubs to hit. And then on to the final two. So we had the TaylorMade, the Q10 and the Ping G440. Down by the golf ball, for me, visually they looked pretty similar in terms of the amount of offset on them and the sort of mid to bigger top line that they offer as well down by the golf ball. So very confidence inspiring. They both offered great ball speed as well, but actually the Ping gave me the higher launch, the higher spin, and retained the ball speed that I was after. So if I'm looking for a winner in this particular category, I'd say the Ping for me personally today performed the best. But of course, go out, hit them each. Everybody's different in terms of your dynamics and what you're going to bring to the table and what you might get out of a particular iron model. So you've definitely got to go out and test these yourself. Hopefully you found some information there which is going to be useful for you guys. For me, I might be checking out a set of those Pings sooner rather than later because they were so easy to hit. But 4 fantastic irons here from 4 of the big guys, 4 of the big manufacturers in golf. So guys, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel for any more future content. If you really enjoyed that test today and you've got any more ideas of different videos you'd like me to personally shoot, put it in the comments below and we'll try and get those shot for you as soon as we possibly can. Hope you enjoyed today and look forward to seeing you next video.